Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. This is Dr. Ken Muich, Fibromyalgia Wellness Center, Stetson Chiropractic Clinic, doing the number 70 presentation for live video on health conditions affecting everybody, primarily fibromyalgia, but there's so many other related conditions, especially those that we're actually be talking about a little bit today, not only fibromyalgia, but almost any kind of a condition you can think of that has an inflammatory response, and almost all conditions have inflammation involved with them. Inflammation actually leads to many other conditions. But I hope you enjoyed the message that I sent out. High sugar, I love you, but you're killing me, and all the other ones. We're going to be talking about food. Now, I talked about this before, but I really want to concentrate on this and get some information out to you so that you understand about eating improperly and really concentrating on certain things when you actually go out to eat or when you're actually preparing foods. So let's take a look at these. First of all, we're going to take a look at sugar and the health risks involved with it. We're talking about obesity, high blood pressure, inflammation itself, heart disease, weight gain, fat storage that leads to hunger, which actually leads to overeating, which is another problem in itself. We're talking about sugar that has high calories and no nutritional value itself. There's simple sugars, which are the monosaccharides that we really deal with for the most part, and that's the glucose, the fructose, and the galactose. The sucrose is the table sugars, the white sugar. Probably causes more problems than anything. Fructose is found in almost all fruits and vegetables, so you can't get that out of it. But where sucrose has a much higher level of blood dosage, where it affects you much more quickly, and then you drop off like a cliff, whereas fructose has one of these things where it's a nice wave, and always try to concentrate on that. And then, of course, we're talking about, again, glycemic aspects, low glycemic versus high glycemic foods. We talked about that. Those are carbohydrates. And so when you're talking about sugars, fruits and vegetables, just look up and see what the glycemic level is in the fruits and vegetables that you're eating. And they should be below 50, and that is the healthiest aspect for you. Now, sugar, again, is very, very interesting. I'll tell you the story. We were in California one time. We were having lunch, and when there's any food left behind and the servers don't pick it up, it was outside. You'll have a whole bunch of birds that fly by and try and pick up scraps of food and so forth. And it was interesting because they had the sugar in little packets on the table. Yeah, the waiter comes by, he was cleaning up. He says, if you notice, he said, that the birds, he says, don't take the artificial sugar. He says they know the difference. They'll take the regular sugar packets, but not the artificial. He says they know that that's poison. So that's another aspect that we had talked about as far as fake sugars and so forth. The only ones that I concentrate on and suggest are the stevias, plant-based. Look at the ingredients so you don't have other things added to them. That's very, very important. Let's take a look now. The sugar, of course. That's the other thing. 12-ounce can of soda actually is like eating 8 teaspoons of sugar. 136 calories, 33 grams. And I went to a seminar this weekend, very, very interesting, and the gentleman spoke about a half hour on sugar and its debilitating and inflammatory effects. And one thing that he actually said is they're actually doing tests on, if you were to have one can of soda, one can of sugar soda, so to speak, a week, it will actually shorten your lifespan by as much as 4 years. Would you believe that? That's something to think about when you reach for that can of soda. This past year, in January, I was at a convention, and they had Pepsi and Coke and so forth, but they had the smaller containers. I said, I'm just going to see what it actually tastes like. I don't drink those, but I just thought I'd try it. And when I was younger, I thought Pepsi was better than Coke. It's up to you, whatever it is. But I opened up the Pepsi, and I took a big swig, and I went, it just doesn't taste right. Very, very interesting. If you're off of it, I'm sure you can acquire a taste for it. But if you've been off of it like I have, it just didn't taste like anything I can remember. So let's take a look at gluten: wheat, rye, barley, malt. Okay, and again, if you're going to buy something, look at the ingredients. The lowest glycemic level of these products is sourdough, probably the lowest. if you really need to have some, the safest. We're talking about celiac disease. We're talking about inflammation, gut inflammation, and we're talking about wheat germ gluten, which is inflammatory, and it causes immune problems because of the protein that's involved with it. Now, I've had people come back from Europe and say, I can eat their breads and their rolls and everything else and pastries, and it's fantastic. Yeah, for some reason, we've got to be adding things that should not be added, or maybe the type of gluten to our products, because this is a very, very common message that I get from people that travel internationally. What gluten does, it makes the gut more permeable to things. Permeable means that it opens up and allows stuff that shouldn't go into the bloodstream, so to speak, and it's difficult to get out. And of course, that causes immune reactions. Another thing that's very, very interesting about gluten for fibromyalgia patients especially, and chronic fatigue, gluten actually causes brain fog and also fatigue. Symptoms from both celiac permeability and also the celiac gluten sensitivity. Now, there's other things that we have to remember about as far as gluten. We always think about the breads, but there's so many other masquerading things that are called the masquerading symptoms of gluten sensitivity. And not the severe ones with celiac, but things that kind of creep up on you. Look, anything that's on a shelf life, anything that has a shelf life and so forth and so on, check the gluten in it, okay? I'm sure there's going to be wheat products and so forth, because that's going to lead us into the next thing, which is trans fatty acids. But if there's cookies, crackers, and cakes and so forth and so on, and breads, I can almost guarantee for you that they're gluten, filled with gluten. Now, you can go to a lot of stores that have gluten-free products. But again, read the ingredients, because oftentimes they'll add a lot of sugar or other things that will cover the gluten, lack of gluten itself. And you don't want that, so you're going to be sacrificing one thing for another. So you don't want to do that. Read the ingredients. Take your time to read the ingredients. Now let's get on to the trans fatty acids. Trans fatty acids is anything that has a shelf life, which includes cookies, crackers, cakes, you name it, a little bit of everything, including red meat and pork. Now, during the cave age days, red meat and pork had high levels of omega-3, but now it does not, because we've been feeding them all the different grains and so forth. So now they're loaded with omega-6. What is that for you? What does that mean for you? Well, omega-3 is fish oil, obviously. Omega-6 is trans fatty acids, and trans fatty acids stimulate the brain to produce arachidonic acid, which produces PGE2, prostaglandins, which is your primary source of inflammation and pain in a body. So when we take patients off that come in, either fibro or severely ill patients, we take them off of sugar, gluten, trans fatty acids, and dairy for about 2.5 to 3 weeks. Then we have them add one food every 72 hours. Oftentimes they'll have a bad reaction. They'll say, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I'm so sick after eating this food. I thought it was okay for me. But you got to take it out of your diet, like I said, for a while before you add it, and that makes a big difference. How long? About 2 to 3 weeks at least, okay? And some people can't do it. We know right away those people that will stay and remain sick because they can't stay off of this thing. It's so addictive. These foods are addictive. The food companies actually hire scientists so that they can actually get your tongue to get involved with tasting and so forth, and it attracts you to the point where you can't stay away from these foods. Jay's potato chips, you can't have only one, for example, which is true. I mean, because once it hits your tongue and you go, whoa, man, I got to have some more of that. It's almost like a drug, and that's how they feed you. That's how they get you to eat these things over and over and over again. Not just a few, but a whole bag, okay? Maybe a pound and a half bag, and you can't stay away from these things. But trans fatty acids are inflammatory. Bottom line, it causes inflammation. Of course, it's difficult to stay off of these things 100%, but bottom line is that you should increase your fruits and vegetables, and I always talk about the amount of meat you should have should fit in the palm of your hand here, okay, instead of outside of it, like the 3-pound T-bone steaks and so forth and so on. So keep that in mind when you're eating that. But again, it affects the brain and in a negative fashion. And so the more trans fatty acids and so forth that you have, the omega-6s, that actually causes problems overall in the body and weakens your body to to other conditions, health conditions. Now, dairy, health problems. Lactose intolerance. You've heard that before. Look, if you get older and you've been off of milk for a while, and then you go try to drink milk, your gut's going to adversely affect you. You're going to have cramps. You're going to have upset stomach. You're really going to have a difficult time. Dairy protein is difficult to digest. Okay, we're talking about instead of having normal proteins, we're talking about big golf ball type things, and you can't digest them. I'm just using that as an example. Dairy is highly acidic. And yet calcium is alkaline, which I find very, very interesting in your body. But the more the more dairy that you eat actually can cause calcium deposits in the form of osteoarthritis and also inflammation. So again, watch how much you're eating, okay? And here's the interesting thing, research-wise. You get stronger bones by eating plant-based foods than you do dairy. I know that's going to say, wait a minute, what are you talking about? The vegetables, the chards and the kale and almonds, all those things, you'll have a higher bone density eating that than you will milk. Think about it. We're the only people that depend upon another animal for its milk. What? Think about it. You don't see, a gorilla suckling on a lion, for crying out loud, after birth. I know it sounds crazy what I'm saying, but bottom line is gorillas use their own milk, and lions use their own milk, and giraffes use their own milk, and dogs and cats and everything else. So why are we dependent upon a cow for our dairy, so to speak? Well, that's the Dairy Association, that's for sure. And again, we're not getting pure milk because obviously nowadays I wouldn't even try it, the raw milk, my goodness, unless it's pasteurized in some way or form, because of all the things that are not only in the water and food that they're eating, but just in general. But animal products, believe it or not, also age the body. The more dairy products that you have actually ages your body, in effect that it ages your skin. So if you want to have better skin, if you want to be healthier, then you want to reduce your dairy production, or your dairy intake, shall we say, in itself. So sugar, gluten, trans fatty acids, dairy. So what do you eat? Well, there's a lot of things that you can eat. A lot of fruits and vegetables. I'm not suggesting that you become a non-eat meat eater in any way or form, but just watch the amounts that you ingest. Watch what you're eating. You should have a lot higher level of fruits and vegetables in itself, and all these other things, the sugars that you add, should be depleted from your diet. Trans fatty acids, you can't stay away from so many different things, but watch the amounts that you ingest, and again, always balance that with low glycemic foods. It will make it a lot easier for you as far as sugar and diabetes and so many other conditions. Gluten, again, there's gluten-free products. Just read the instructions as far as, or the ingredients as far as what else has been added to it. You don't want to sacrifice one thing for another. And dairy, again, I know there's so many different things that are out there, but, try coconut milk, try almond milk, things like that, that the dairy they don't want to have you say milk when you talk almond or coconut, any of these others. But it's a lot healthier, bottom line. And it'll affect you not only have a much better stomach, but also reduce your aging. And everybody, especially the ladies out there, want to look better longer, and so you might want to try that. Hey, it's about 17 minutes into it. I hope I helped you understand the values of staying away from certain things that are just killing you, making you sick. All right, you don't want that. You want to stay healthy. You want to enjoy life and not just get through life, so to speak. So 70. This is number 70. Next week, I will not be doing a presentation. It is a 50th anniversary party, my wife and myself. 50 years. Unbelievable, huh? And it's going to be held Monday, and so I am not going to be doing a presentation because you'll be watching a party in the background. So we'll hold off until the following week. But I'll stay in touch with you and let you know what we're going to be covering and talking about. We'll be taking a lot of material information. Thank you, Jackie. Much appreciated. But after what I've put her through for so many years, I promised I wouldn't get involved with anything from the clinic work in itself. I do hope you understand. But number 71 will be 2 weeks. But again, I'll be sending information out to you to let you know all about this. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Again, I hope I woke some of the things in your mind as far as what, not just what the bad things are, but also maybe some of the good things that you should be ingesting to stay and keep yourself healthy. Thank you so very, very much. Blessings to everyone. It's hot out in Arizona. It's going to be even hotter. It's going to be about 110 in a day or two. But thank goodness we have air conditioning, and I'm doing this from the inside. Anyway, thank you very, very much, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. But just check Facebook, and I'll keep you in touch with everything that's going on and the subject that we'll be covering. Thank you, and have a wonderful week or two. And maybe I'll tell you about a little bit of the celebration when we get finished. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful. Bye-bye now.